Today we're talking about the Kumu, Honua, Mauli Ola, and other Hawaii things. My email is there, educate@gmail.com if you want to reach out. My name is Kuulei Perreira-Keawekane. I come from Panaewa, Hawaii. Panaewa is a Hawaiian homes community in the Moku of Hilo in the Ahupua of Waiakea on Hawaii Island. I'm calling in from there. I think 9 of us had taken the survey. So let's go over the answers. So Mauli Ola is a little bit different from the word Mauli Ola. Mauli and Mauli are two different things. Mauli Ola is the word for indigenous health. Mauli Ola is also the name of a Hawaiian island, and that island is Sand Island off the island of Oahu. So Mauli Ola is an older name for that place. The second question asks, what is the Kumu Honua Mauli Ola? Most people answered an educational philosophy statement. Some of you answered B and C, and B and C is the correct answer. I have a friend, his name is Ika Aka Nahuevai. He plays music with Kaikena, and he recently, over the last year or so, I want to say, released a cool reggae song called the Kumu Honua Mauli Ola. That song is actually based on what we're talking about today. So the answer is B and C for that one. The 3 piko, you had the options of the navel, the hands, and the feet. The navel, the eyes, and the mouth, or E, O, and A. Most of you answered E, O, and A, and that was the correct answer, E, O, and A. I asked in this poll what the 4 components of Mauli Ola are, and I'm really grateful that nobody chose Moana, Maui, Lilo, and Stitch, because I would just end this whole Zoom if anybody chose that one. But the correct answer is B, actually. Pili Uhane, Olelo, Lavena, and Ike Ku'una. So we'll learn a little bit about that today. We were asked what are 3 of the 5 protective factors: social connections, communication, and skill building, parental resilience, discipline, education, social and emotional competence of children, parental resilience, and cooking and baking, which is nice, but it's not one of the protective factors necessarily. So the correct answer is C, parental resilience, social connections, and concrete support in time of need. So mahalo for taking that poll. If you're new, no worries. You can take them again at the end because we'll be doing that again. Mahalo, mahalo. Okay, I guess that's what I was supposed to do while I was answering the questions, because now you can see the results, right? Because before that, you was just looking at me talk. Anyway, let's move on to the actual thing that we're supposed to be doing right now, which is this presentation on the Kumu Honua Mauli Ola. Before I move on, I just want to give my aloha to Auntie Melinda. Aloha, Auntie Melinda. Good to see you in this space. And also Kainoelani Lee, who is my best friend of 55 years. Just kidding, but we was best friends for a long time. So aloha to you and love you, nui loa. To everyone else who I have yet to meet, aloha to you all, and I hope we can keep in touch after this session. My email address is on the screen if you want to keep in touch or have me host any of the things you're working on as well. That was my email address. So today we're looking at the Kumu Honua Mauli Ola. The Kumu Honua Mauli Ola is an educational philosophy statement that takes the form of a PDF or a printed book. It looks like this green one with this fish hook on top. This is the Kumu Honua Mauli Ola. I made this presentation and I'm going to post it on the Sked platform soon. And if you want me to email you this presentation, I can. Just email me at the one I had on the. I'll put. Can you put my email address in the chat, Mike? But this is a PDF, and so if you scroll down, you'll see that this PDF is written in Hawaiian. It's an entire document. It's an entire educational philosophy statement written in Hawaiian and explained in other languages. So it's not translated, it's explained, because a lot of these concepts are not translatable in other languages, but the authors use other languages to describe the work so that people can understand or develop some kind of understanding about what the philosophy statement is about. So in this PDF, you'll find a lot of the images that I'm going to be sharing about today, and you'll have access to this PDF afterward. Caleb, aloha oi. My audio is going in and out. Okay, great. Nobody told me that. Can you folks hear me okay? Okay, I wonder if, let me see. Okay, you folks can hear me okay. Okay, my kai. Good to see you, Caleb. I don't know if you're still here or if you left, but or if you was even from the first session, maybe. Anyways, because I just looked at the chat right now. Okay. Okay, so the Kumu Honua Mauli Ola is an educational philosophy statement that basically says that knowing who you are and knowing your cultural root is important to your wellness. This philosophy statement helps us to understand that for Hawaii's, our wellness and our ability to function well in the societies and the communities that we're part of, in order to function well in those spaces, we have to have some things, a few things that are really secure for us in our identities. You can see this, let me see if I can annotate this right here. This image right here is the song, the Kumu Honua Mauli Ola song that my friend released. And then there's this piece about protective factors in the middle. All of these are links. So even this one, this link, if you click on it, it'll take you to the song so that you can learn the song and jam the cool reggae song. Okay. Okay, so we're talking about the Kumu Honua Mauli Ola, and then we're going to go over some of those protective factors and how they are related to the Hawaiʻi worldview. So in the Kumu Honua Mauli Ola, it talks about Mauli Ola. Can we unmute ourselves and say the word Mauli Ola?
Mauli Ola.
Mauli Ola.
Mauli Ola. Oh yeah, no. Mauli Ola is a little bit different than Mauli Ola, which is what I was saying earlier. We can see here that Mauli Ola means the breath of life or the power of healing. It's also the name of Sand Island off of Oahu. And then Mauli Ola is also a place name at Kilauea Volcano, Hawaii. We see here that it's also the name of an akua Hawaii, of a Hawaiian deity. Other works related to Mauli Ola is that Dr. Keawekane Kula put together. He's actually friends with Dr. Kimo Alameda, but he put together this presentation and actually this framework called the Pokihi framework that talks about pathways to optimal health and well-being for Native Hawaiians. If you end up with this presentation, this is also linked. So if you press this, it'll take you to the PowerPoint presentation that Dr. Kaholokula put together. Okay, once upon a time, I didn't even know how to work Zoom. So how about a spiritual round of applause for all these things I just did on this slide? Okay. Okay, so the educational philosophy, the PDF, and the book teaches us about these 4 ao. And ao, it doesn't mean go bathe, okay? Because that's ao. Also to swim is like au kai. But ao means side, or like part. You could say it means like a part. So the ao pili uhane is the part of Mauli Ola that involves spirituality and ceremony. So for Japanese people, that might look like a different photo, but for Hawaii's, and for Filipino people, also for Chuukese people, people from Nugoro, like it might look different than in these photos, but it's the same concept, that these are the pillars of Native Hawaiian health or of indigenous health, you know. So Number one, you can see Kumu Hiapo Pereira with a kihei, and that is an a'ahur. That's a Hawaii thing, the kihei. And you can see because of the kihei and because that girl who is drinking from that niu, that is a ceremony. So that is one au or one side of Mauli Ola, which involves spirituality and ceremony. In the number 2 picture, you can see this cute baby who is probably a 50-year-old adult by now because this picture is actually old. But this baby is sitting in front of this computer with this thing that says Pono or Puna or Pana, or it says one of those one. Sorry, I can't see. It says a Hawaii word on there, and that's because this baby is learning Olelo. But you see that it also has the pictures. It also has the pictures there, and so in this space, this baby is learning not just the language that she'll say with her mouth, but the worldview of her people. And so she's learning that in this space, not just through the computer program, but she's part of a Hawaiian immersion school. And so in that school, they're learning about those things. Can we unmute ourselves and say the word pili uhane?
Pili uhane.
Pili uhane.
Uhane. Pili uhane.
Let's also say the word olelo.
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 Olelo. Olelo comes from the word alelo, and alelo is tongue, in case anybody didn't know that. Okay, we have the au lavena, which is depicted in the 3rd photo, those keiki with lei. The au lavena talks about customs and behaviors. And then the au ike kuuna talks about traditional knowledge, which is depicted by the hula. So the Kumu Honua Mauli Ola teaches us that for Hawaii people, all of these things have to do with the wellness of our minds and our bodies and our spirits. O ka pule mau he la anaia o ka au pili uhane. Prayer is one example of that limb that is the spirituality. So prayer for these people look like this, but if this was a Japanese family or a Maori family or a non-Christian family, maybe this would look differently. The photo would be different, but the idea would be the same. That this is an example of that side of health. Au olelo, o ka ha'i olelo ma ka papahana puka kula he la ana ia o ka au olelo. This is a photo of a Hawaii worldview and way of being. In the graduation ceremony, it's not just a thing where they graduate and yay, grand party. There's actually a particular function of the language in that space. So at this moment, or when there is graduations, these students will oftentimes be responsible for reciting their genealogy, talking about where they're from and what places raised them, and also acknowledging the people that they come from in really deep ways. And that's in the not just the language of their ancestors, but the worldview. Like really understanding that those are the important things of the graduation. Understanding that it's not an individual thing, it's like a family thing, a thing related to your lineage, your graduation, your accomplishment. So keeping the worldview intact is important to the wellness of the people. Au lavena. Can everyone unmute yourselves and say lavena?
Lavena.
Lavena.
Lavena. O o ka ho'okipa malihini he la ana ia o ka au lavena. Anybody know what is a malihini? Visitor. Yes, visitor. Or guest, or people who, like a person who is not from where you are. And so I think from a Euro-American worldview, if you go to, or if you're not from Hawaii, you are a malihini. Or if you don't live in Hawaii, you're a malihini. And if you do live in Hawaii, and if you are from Hawaii, you get to call yourself kama'aina. From a Hawaii worldview, if I go to your house, I am not kama'aina to your house. I'm a malihini to your house. If I, from Panaewa, go over to Molokai where Uilani lives. I am not a kama'aina at Molokai. I am a malihini to Molokai. If I go to Kona, which is a different, even moku on my same island, I am not kama'aina in Kona. I am malihini in Kona. If I go to even Keaukaha, which is a different community in my ahupua'a, in my community, it's a different community in my community. I'm not if I didn't grow up in Keaukaha, and Keaukaha is not my place, and if I don't have kupuna in Keaukaha, if I don't have genealogy tied to Keaukaha, I'm not kama'aina in Keaukaha. I'm malihini in Keaukaha. So this is like the Hawaii worldview that is perpetuated by this concept of the lavena. For Hawaii people, welcoming malihini, taking care of malihini, malama malihini, that's a Hawaiian way. That's an old Hawaii way. I think over time, as we step away further and further away from the old concepts of Hawaii and Hawaiianness, we start to step into these other perspectives and other worldviews, like the concept of like the haole being the enemy, like that concept that's actually not really an old concept, but also in the evolution of our history, that was like a complex thing too. But anyway, just the concept of ho'okipa malihini, that's a Hawaii thing. That's a Hawaii behavior. That's a Hawaii custom. Okay. Au ike ku'una. O ka haku lei hulu he la ana ia o ka au ike ku'una. Anybody know what this is that this person is making?
Feather.
Lei hulu?
Yes, lei hulu. A feather lei. And so a lei hulu is when you have one rope and you cut one feather at a time to be like this small or smaller, like this. And you 1 to 2 feathers at a time, you lash it to this rope. And that takes about 10 to 12 generations. Okay, so it takes a long time to be making those things. O ka haku lei hulu though, those kinds of things, those activities, those old ways of spending your time, that is the au ike ku'una. So that is the hula, that is the haku lei hulu, that is the hilo, when you hilo lei, when you make lei. Somebody give me another example of an au ike ku'una, something in the au ike ku'una.
Hala weaving.
Yes, hala weaving. Pololei, hala weaving. Maybe one more.
Kalua pig?
Yes, the emu. Yes,
Emu?
the emu. Yeah, yeah. The emu is maka au ike ku'una. It's in this area of Hawaii traditions. So the emu, the throwing net, the fishing, the paniolo action, the picking opihi, the kanikapila, the all of those kinds of things. You know, the Hawaii things that people like to do. That's from the au ike ku'una. When Uilani, do you have you have a question?
This is thinking that so ike ku'una would be a practice or tradition that is passed on from one generation to the other.
Yes, that's pololei. Are you familiar with the Kumu Honua Mauli Ola?
Little bit.
Okay, that's awesome because that's true. So it's almost like, because ideally you would have learned from your own ohana. So for example, my own ohana, our ike ku'una is music. So I learned a lot of the music that I play today, and my singing comes from my dad. And my dad's singing comes from his mom. And his mom's singing comes from her mom and her mom and her dad. So it's generations of that tradition. You know, I think later on we'll get into how not a lot of people have those opportunities anymore because people got 9-to-5s and now they're no longer farming pigs or making imu or smoking meat or making lei, because now they have to work for a job to provide for their family. Yeah. So we get into that in a little bit. Okay, for Hawaii people, we have 3 piko. And no, not 3 of the things on your stomach, because that would be weird. But 3 piko are these 3 central connections, central portals for connection. Everyone, if you could put your hand on your head. Can everyone unmute yourself? Try do it with your other hand. Nah. Unmute yourself and say, Piko E. This is our Piko E. So when babies are born, their Piko E is really, really soft. It's the fontanelle. It's that soft spot on the baby's head. Our Piko E, you can see in image number 1, connects us to spirit. And so for some people, that's Jesus. And for some people, that's Jehovah God or Buddha or Allah or the universe or the crystals. Like different people have different ideas of what spirit is. But that Piko E is how we connect to that information. When babies are born, their Piko E is so soft that Hawaiʻi people say they can see kupuna. They can like see the old people of your ohana. They can hear the old people of your ohana. So I think in Euro-American systems of being and in Euro-American worldviews, children are not as important as the older people or like as the adults. Children don't know any better. They can't do for themselves, or she's just a baby. How is she supposed to know that? But from a ika Mauli Ola, ikialo ka Mauli Ola, in Hawaiʻi worldviews, our children know far more than we do, and they are far more connected spiritually than we are. And so that's talking about the Piko E. Can everyone place your hand over your Piko, like your actual Piko? Because I don't know how to say that word. It's like umbilicus or umbilicus or like umbilicus or I don't know what is that. But your actual Piko, right? Yes. So that is your Piko O. Everyone, can you say Piko O?
Piko.
Piko O. Our Piko O connected us once upon a time and is connecting us to our tita who is hapai here in this space. Our Piko E connects us to our mother. And her Piko O, her Piko O connected her to her mother. And her Piko O connected her to her mother and her mother. So in image numbers 2, you can see that baby, right? And you can see her parents and her family. So those real life people are the people of her Piko O. For Hawaiʻi well-being, you need to maintain these connections to the people that you come from. And I know that gets to be really tricky because of the situation with the hanai or the situation with the I don't know my parents. Like that, it gets to be tricky there. But what we're doing is looking at because we're looking at the physical umbilical cord. That's true, but also where were we fed as children? Because sometimes that's not always the case where people get to know their parents, but maybe they had people who helped to feed them when they were younger, and in a way that is a cord as well. So that might be the Piko O. It's center of connection to parents and personal lineage, even the hanai, including the hanai. Everyone put your hand on your lap and say Piko A.
Piko A.
Piko A.
Your Piko A is representative or is represented by your genitalia, and your genitalia connects you to future generations. Not everyone can have keiki, but our Piko A helps us to remember that for Hawaiʻi people and the Hawaiʻi worldview, our children are important. So that's not all those children didn't come out of one Piko A actually. Right, in the number 3, generally that's not how that works. Sometimes it is, but I don't think in that case that's not. No, that's multiple people's is keiki. So in general, the importance of keiki in our lives is a cultural concept and a cultural truth for Hawaiʻi people and indigenous people everywhere. Is what I'm thinking. Okay, the last thing I'm gonna just blast you with, because this is a lot of information, I know. And if this is going over your head, no worries, because I'll be putting these slides onto the what is that? Sked platform for you all to be able to access. Na honua e kolu o ka Mauli Ola. The honua ieve which is depicted in photo number 1, that is the safety of a womb, or the safety of a family, or the safety of a household. And when that safety is established, when children are not expecting their parents to be yelling at each other, or when children recognize that mommy and daddy both are here for me, or like if not mommy and daddy, then tutus or uncles, or I have people I can trust in my life. When the Honua Ieve is solid, then those solid children can go on into the kipuka. They can move on into this and contribute to the safety of a community with shared values and a strong sense of cultural identity, like in picture number 2 on the slide. You guys can see my slides, right? Okay, because if you couldn't see my slides, I would really, really be wondering what the heck I was. Okay, good that you can see my slides. But when keiki are not established in the space of the ohana, it's difficult for them to transition into the kipuka. It's difficult for them to move into a space with other personalities and other people in their youth. But when they learn in that space, because in photo number 2, not all those keiki were born speaking Hawaiian. Some of them are learning, because this is an immersion preschool. And in this space, they learn about Hawaiʻi values, about Mauli Ola, and those kinds of things. And then they feel safe enough to stand on a sure-footed identity of culture and cultural grounding. And when that happens, they can puka out into the ao holoʻokoʻa, where they are safe to engage with other cultures and worldviews while standing on a firm foundation of cultural identity. So, for example, when I was growing up, I didn't really grow up in an immersive space. I went to Pua Noeau, but I ended up going to Kamehameha. And I didn't really have this strong sense of identity in my family. Nobody in my family speaks Hawaiian except me. My dad had his fair share of trials with substance misuse. My mom, we come from a really tricky kind of space in my life. And then growing up, every time somebody who wasn't Hawaiian or anytime I stepped into a space that wasn't really Hawaiian, I felt really unsafe. Like I had to defend myself in every space. So then I started to respond to particular ideas in a particular way, because that foundation wasn't set for me. And so I had to ho'opa'a that as I grew. Even in my adulthood, I have to ho'opa'a that. Otherwise, I feel defensive, like I have to defend myself, defend my culture, defend my people. And that's true in some ways, but it takes on a real illness if you're not really sure about who you are and where you come from. And so we're learning about all of these things with the Honua Mauli Ola. I linked this document on protective factors because I didn't know what protective factors were, and they're really worth looking into. But protective factors are the foundation of safety that keiki get to grow into as they're growing. They include parental resilience, so how and who we are as parents, how resilient we are emotionally and financially and psychologically and spiritually as parents affects our keiki. Social connections, our own social connections, but also our ability for our keiki to see those that we make. Our keiki and their ability to recognize and identify concrete support for themselves in time of need. Knowledge of parenting and child development. So for parents to be equipped, for parents to either be equipped or get equipped to be abundant in their parenting styles, and then also to promote for their own children social and emotional competence. Because if they don't ever see it growing up, how will they ever embody it growing up and then as grown-ups? So these are things that ideally it's for children, but I'm actually learning a lot because I think I'm working on my inner child. This is helping me to inform the ways I need to improve. And so I will put these things in this here. I can put the link to this thing in the chat because I see some of you taking notes. Oh wait, I just only sent that to Caleb. Okay, I need to send to everyone in meeting. Yes. Ikemele. O vai ka mea nana e meli kemele. Kemele he au, Ilani.
Kumu, Honua, Mauli Ola, the one that
Oh,
you have
ikaka. Ikaka
Ikaka.
mai.
Okay.
Ikaka mai. So if you go on Apple Music or YouTube and you do ikaka mai, kumu. I'm reading the chat, sorry, because I can hear that Uilani asked me a question and I never respond. But anyway, yes, my kai. So anyway, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and I wanna say something without any slides up so that I can see all of you folks. The main idea about this presentation that I'm doing is that, like, usually when people are thinking of protective factors, they don't think about opihi or fishing or kapa or pa'iai, pohakuku i'ai. They're not thinking of Hawaiian language or Hawaiian worldview. They're thinking of like how 5 steps to be a better parent. You know, or when people think parental resilience, I think of those kind moms with the ponytails when they always go jogging with their strollers, you know. But that's not what that only has to look like. Parental resilience, social connections, concrete support in times of need, knowledge of parenting and child development, social and emotional competence of children. All of those things are embedded in the culture of who we are. And if we are not Hawaiian, it doesn't matter because it's embedded in the culture of who you are as whatever culture that you come from. Aboriginal cultures and Aboriginal worldviews, the old ones, not the ones that come with all the cultural trauma now, not those, because those are harmful. Like the thing about like, what kind of Hawaiian you not eat vana, or the kind of Hawaiian that doesn't eat vana, okay? So you know because kind of in this younger generation, we come from the trauma of Hawaiian being illegal to speak, or from the trauma of not being able to dance hula, or from the trauma of it's the law, you need to have an English name. Like, did you guys know that was a law before? Anyway, a lot of us are and the babies too, they're carrying that trauma in their genes. And so not that one, not those cultural values, you know, the older than that, those cultural values. They have embedded the protective factors of how we malama keiki are embedded to those cultural worldviews, to those cultural truths. How we connect with each other as ohana, that's embedded into who we are. And so it's just a matter of remembering. It's just a matter of making a commitment to learn more about Hawaii ways in our daily lives every day. It's about renewing the commitment that we have to ourselves and our own relationship to cultural truth so that we can serve our keiki and be better equipped to help them and to guide them in good ways that we already know that come naturally to us. We just got to remove those blockages and remember, you know. So I'm going to stop yapping my chaps so that we can do the post poll. And and it's not like, oh, you guys never get the right answer, like you wasn't paying attention. It's that there's no shame if you cannot remember the answer, because the idea is just that you're able to remember that we're equipped with the cultural truth that we come from as Aboriginal descendants. So that's the idea. I want to open it up for Q&A, but I'll post the poll. If you can post the poll, and then we'll take the poll again. Can you folks see the poll? Okay. I kind of sped through this presentation, but Vi, how much more time do we have?
About, what time is that? 11:30. 15 more minutes.
15 minutes. Mai
Yeah.
That's good time for Q&A.
Yes.
Okay, Mai kai. So the poll is launched, and let's open for the Q&A if anybody has questions or mana'o on what I was talking about.
I have a question.
Yeah, Nicole.
The ike ku'una sounds like it should be, I mean, is it interchangeable with ike kupuna?
That's a good question, and I actually talked about that in the previous session, but thanks for asking. Kupuna are people, like our actual people. But the ku'una is like a tradition made up of generations of those people. So I mean, I guess you could say it can be interchangeable because ike ku'una is ancestral knowledge, and ike kupuna can also be considered ancestral knowledge. But the ku'una has to do with the age, like not just one ancestor, not just one ancestry. Like for example, if every generation of your family does makes patele, that's awesome, and that's ike kupuna because that's all your kupuna. But when we're looking at maoli Hawaii, or if you were looking at maoli Pocoliko or like Puerto Rican maoli, then it would be ike ku'una if multiple kupuna, multiple lineages made patele. So for us, it's ike kupuna. It is ike kupuna because our own kupuna kanikapila in my family. But it's also ike ku'una because my ohana come from Mele. I think others of us in here also come from a lineage of Hawaiian singers. So that's another lineage connected to that in Hawaii. Or if we use imu as an example, we all had to make imu because that's how we ate. So that is ike ku'una. It's multiple lineages, not only the one, But that's how I understand that. That's my mana'o on that. But that's a good question. Does that make sense? Did that answer that question? Yeah, just something I was thinking through. Inherited knowledge and practice. Yeah, totally. Oh, mahalo vai for the YouTube link. Oh yeah, aloha. Go ahead. Was that
No, I
Caleb?
just wanted to say, every time I come and listen to your mana'o and kuka, like you have so much ike that you bring, and I just wanted to share my mahalo. And when you talked about the piko i, piko o, and piko a, it reminded me how we need to, or we should often check in with ourselves, like pehea au. And by using these different picos, we're able to better fulfill ourselves, but also help our clients or like community members. And it reminded me of the newer framework, Kukulu Kumuhana, that they have kind of constructed and looking at through like more of like an ecological model sense of how we can address these health disparities on an individual, community, and then all the way up to the policy level. So I just wanted to share like how that has been so helpful from the first time you introduced that like a few years ago to me, and then how it's so relevant and how it will be like in the days moving forward.
Yes. Oh yeah, no. Mahalo, Caleb, for remembering that, because Caleb was one of my first students. I cannot believe it was a few years that I was doing this. That's kind of a little bit crazy for me because I didn't know that. I forgot about that thing that I taught Caleb. But yeah, it's important for us to check in with ourselves and to be okay, to be all right. Also to check in with each other, to make sure that the community of people are okay and really hanging in there. So mahalo, Caleb. Mahalo ya oi.
I also wanted to chime in. I have to actually go check on some students in a bit, but I just want to mahalo for sharing this ike and reminding of things that we can remember and strengthen. I think of the students that I work with or the children and their families, and I just think of the generational trauma that's happened, for them, and like these missing pieces that they don't know or have. So there's a lot of loss, a lot of you can see a lot of the things that they don't have as you work with them, but there's also a lot of things that they do. And so I think my gosh, well, anyways, I don't know why I'm getting teary, but I think it's really really important to remember our Mauli Ola and how we can incorporate it into our practices, because not every setting that we work in has this, and it's a really good reminder to blend it into what we do and help the people that we help as well. So I kind of like what Caleb said too, like making sure you malama you, so that when you have to give to others, you have to give. And yeah, I think that this would be great for especially our young kids and the youth. I think they definitely need it, especially our Native students. There's so many on Moloka'i, and a lot of them don't know their heritage or their culture or even some language. Not that they're super lost, but there's missing pieces, and that is that generational trauma that we've all experienced. So, sorry about the crying. Mahalo nui.
No, a'ole oi e mihi tita. He mana'o ko'i loa ka ho'a maoli, ka mālama ana I ka maoli. I ke la papa mamua o ke ia, ka papa mua loa, ua puka ia ke la mana'o, a ua ue ke kahi wahine, no ka mea a'ole oia ma'a I nā mea o ka Mauli Ola, a he Hawaiʻi oia. I'm explaining that in the session previous to this, somebody brought that up, that yeah, this is all really awesome and important. Yes, polole. But, and then she started to cry and she said, but for me, I never had that opportunity to learn Hawaiʻi things. My kupuna don't know any of the stuff that you're talking about. And I was teased a lot for being the haole girl because I speak a certain way and I look a certain way. And I'm not the idea was that she's not less Hawaiian than anybody else. But that we are a community of Hawaiians. That's the actuality of it, is that there are entire communities of Hawaiʻi people who don't get to see themselves or anything relevant to their true cultural selves, their identity in any of the spaces. Like a lot of our institutions, okay, great, Hawaiian name, but how do you hold space for Hawaiian culture? How do you hold space for Hawaiian history, for Hawaiian truth, for Hawaiian being, for relationships, for connection? So I think this is really just mahalo ya oi uilani and ike wau poneha alele e malama keiki e malama oi, and mahalo ika hele ana mai nei. But what I was thinking of is just that this is a call to action. All of this information that we're hearing today is a call to action. Let's, in our home lives, yes, strive to learn more Hawaiʻi things, but let's also, in our professional lives, strive to learn and teach more Hawaiʻi things, and also develop trainings on Hawaiʻi things. Not just only Hawaiian doctors that come in to talk about the disparities of Native Hawaiian health with their pie charts and their graphs and all their statistical datas. Not only those guys, yes, those people, but also the farmers, also the children themselves, like the culture bearers, the tutus and papas. Invite them to your dang thing, pay them to host a training on Mauli Ola, because it's related. A lot of our programs, they do programs on Hawaiian culture, but where are the actual Hawaiians? Like, okay, you're gonna hold a meeting, hold space for community building, but not invite the actual community? What's going on? You know? So we got a whole maoli. We have to start integrating these Hawaiian worldviews in all the areas of our lives. Personal, yes, we have to learn more. And if we're not Hawaiian, we still need to learn more, because the last time I checked, if you're living in Hawaii, you're living in Hawaii. You're living on Hawaii. So you have to know about Hawaii, especially in order to serve our children and the other children who are not Hawaii, who live in Hawaii. You have to know. And so, yes, strive to learn more personally, but strive also to advocate for the systemic representation of Hawaiʻi people and Hawaiʻi truth, because that is how you achieve wellness. And that is how you develop these protective factors for the keiki, you know. Sorry, I didn't mean to preach and just like go off on all that of those things. But I just want to say that the Hawaii, wait, do we have time? What time? Do we have only 50 seconds left?
No, we're good on time.
Okay,
Yeah,
my cut.
45.
I know we still gotta go over the poll, but I want to tell you guys this, and I never tell the other guys, but I want to tell you this, and I might talk about this in the closing. This was a really interesting process for me to be involved in this partnership to open and close, because initially one of the titas from the partnership reached out to me, and she was like, "Oh, Kuulei, just wondering if you would come, you know, give do one of these for the conference." And I was like, "Oh yeah, you know." She was like, "This because I really mahalo that I was able to be paid to do this with you here." And also we should start to expect to be paid. Not always Hawaiians got to do stuff for free. Like on account already with that. But so I'm really grateful. But then the concept was like, oh, can you also open our the kind? So like do an opening chant. And I was like, what? I can do an opening chant if this is going to be a culturally safe space. And then I had to really advocate for the incorporation of these cultural protocols that I talked about earlier in this space, not just agon unga bunga huha one chant out and then you're gonna start. You know, and nobody knows what I just said. I could be cursing you off for all we know. You know what I'm saying? And so this is the Hawaii Kaika partnership actually embodied the process of learning more. And then I was like, okay, but who's gonna close it? You cannot open with a chant and then not close with a pule. Cannot open and then who's gonna close it? And they're like, oh, yeah. Could you also do that too? And I was like, okay, yes, thank you. But you see the willingness, the institutional willingness to learn. And the tita I was talking to was so grateful. And then I ended up explaining to her that my sis, I can open, I can close, I can do two of these things, but not for the amount of dollars that you was gonna pay me to do one of these things. You know, I had to advocate for like, okay, this is what this costs. This is what culturally safe space and the development of that and the structuring of that and the implementation and facilitation of that costs. And if you cannot afford that, then we can do this not the same as that, but less than that. And if you cannot do that, then we can do a little less than that. But you're not going to pay me to do a chant, my girl. Like, fam, we're not going to do that today. You know? And so we didn't. And so we didn't do that. And we had conversations about how to appropriately hold space. But I wanted to just give that really quick example of what that looks like. Because it looks like me being strong enough as a Hawaiʻi to advocate for myself and to advocate for my people and to advocate for my community and to advocate for the right way of how to do things, not just take the money and do a chant, you know. So just wanted to share those things, and I really hope that this is inspiring us to dig deeper and really truly know and understand our value as Hawaiʻi people, our value as Hawaiʻi allies, if we're not Hawaiʻi people, and the value of Hawaiianness and the function and role of Hawaiianness in protective factors for keiki, in the institutions that those keiki go to, in the organizations that support those keiki, the cultural relevance, the Mauli Ola, the health of the identity has to be present and functional. So thank you, folks, for this. I'm going to share these results. Let me see what you guys put. Okay. Mauli Ola, most of you got that correct. It is both indigenous health and the name of a Hawaiian island, Pololei. The Kumu Honua Mauli Ola, everyone got that correct. Yes, I'm glad we know it's now a cool reggae song. Go check it out because my brother gets royalties since he wrote that song. So go play them till the speakers give out. Okay, and then we have the 3 piko. Yes, I, O, and A. We all got that correct. The 4 components of Mauli Ola, are pili uhane, olelo, lavena, and ike kuuna. But also, kanaka, ʻāina, akua, and pilina are important too. So if you put that one, no worries. But nobody put lilo and stitch. So that's the most important thing of this whole conference, that nobody chose that. Okay. Okay. The three of the five protective factors. Oh, ukulele, down, going. The three of the five protective factors include parental resilience, social connections, and concrete support in times of need. And I probably did it again where I wasn't sharing the results. But anyway, most of us got all of these questions, right? So that means I'm doing just an all right job at this thing about these presentations. So, to you, Adrian, to you, Pohaiki Aloha, to you, Courtney, to you, Keala Ko'opuiki Santos, to you, Joe, to you, Ko Nane Akamahina. That's a good name. Kapako Nane Akamahina. To you, Kainoelani Joy. To you, my Auntie Melinda Lloyd. To you, Denise, Yaoi Uilani. To you, conference team, and whoever you are in Iao Valley from the Ho'oikaika Partnership screen. To you, Vai. To you, Caleb. To you, Nicole. Mahalo for having me. Mahalo for lending your manao in this space. And I'm going to stop and we'll do Q&A. Was I answering one question all this time? Yeah. Sorry. But anyway, anyone have any more questions? Or manao? I'm going to put my my email address again right here in the chat. If you folks want to keep in touch or learn more about what I do, or even the other, because I have another actual real job that I do. If you guys want to learn more about that, that would be awesome to keep in touch. But yeah, any other manao? Any other manao? Joe, aloha oi. Are you in the forest actually, or is that your background?
The forest is like a little bit away, but this is a spot that I've been trying to malama. So I'm not there right now. No Wi-Fi out there.
Yeah, you know, true that. How you doing? And how was this presentation for you?
I appreciated it a lot. I think that there's a couple things so I work at Key Project. It's a community center in Kalu. And so I think that it's kind of empowering to just think about integrating into, like, I don't know, just integrate into everything, like always make culture part of everything. No, screw that. Don't try and make culture part of everything. Like start cultural and then like make it work. And then I like that a lot. And then the protective factors I think are really concise and something I can share with like my supervisors is like guiding mana'o to make sure that we're always pushing towards some of those things. I thought those were really beautiful and holistic. And just lots of good things to double check on. So mahalo.
Yeah, mahalo piha ya oi. I'm interested in learning more about the Key Project. What island are you on from? On
Oahu. I'm in the Oahu Kahalu. Yeah.
Oh, Kahalu, mai ka'i loa. Mahalo for joining us from Kahalu. Oh, you know. Mahalo, Joe. Anybody else? Mana'o? Let me get in the chat. Mahalo, bye. Yeah, normalize paying us for our ike, you know. I'm just reading through the kinds now. Okay, great. Okay, if nobody has any, Auntie Melinda, how are you doing? You okay? You have any thoughts for me?
I really enjoyed everything today, because I'm one of that generation that wasn't raised in the culture, and I come from fractionated background too. So I just appreciate it, and I learned so much from you today, and I really appreciate. And I've been in social work field for 30 years, and I learned stuff from you, particularly the slide about being raised in the culture. Like, you know how you say that safety piece is so important. So thank you so much.
Thank you. A lot of these things came from the book. I never hardly make none of this. It was only screenshots.
Well, you shared your lived experience, I think, and
Yeah,
that also helped a lot to make those connections. So I really appreciate you, Ku'ule, and I appreciate your power and the mana that you have and that you're sharing with us. Thank you so much.
Mahalo. That is the Ike Ku'una. That mana belongs to all of us as Hawaii people. So let us partake, let us engage in that way. Maikai, mahalo, Auntie. Paike aloha. Mahalo anui for all that you do. Incredible job. Aloha. Denise, RN, in the front lines, how you doing? You okay? You have any manao? Okay, I can hear you. Mute.
I wanted
Mutete. Yeah.
I wanted to mahalo you because I'm just gonna straight out and say it, but I'm not Native Hawaiian. But as a wahine and one that's kind of late to the game of learning traditional Hawaiian practices, olelo, I am raising my daughter with a lot of these values. So I absolutely appreciate you for all your ike and your openness. Unfortunately, not everybody is as open to share, and that's been my struggle as a non-Native Hawaiian. I have the drive, the compassion to help people, but there's certain things that are sacred or kapu because I'm not Hawaiian.
Yep.
But but I find ways to learn and to gain the permission to help our Native Hawaiian keiki. So I did write down your email because I would love for you to speak to some of our makua. Because I think it's important, the things that you're sharing. And I can relate to it so much because I have a lot of trauma in my life that I deal with. And that's exactly why I do what I do, is because I see the damage it can cause. Generations and generations go on and nobody changes anything until it's the keiki that decides I don't want to be like that anymore. So I mahalo you.
And I mahalo you, says thank you so much for no ka'auamo ana I ke la kuleana, for kind of shouldering that yoke of a culture that is not even like yours per se, but is only yours through you living here and being here. I can only hope that people like you take it upon themselves to carry that too. So thank you for modeling that for our ohana who are from away. I think maybe somebody needs to use this room, and now I'm taking up all the time. But yeah, is that correct?
No, you're all good. No, thank you so much. It was such an amazing presentation, not just as your moderator, but again, as a Native Hawaiian myself. I learned so much from the last presentation and then now, it's soaking it all in. But thank you so much, everyone. We're actually going out for lunch. The next presentation will start at 12:30, so you can go back to your schedule and then click on the link to your registered session. But Ku'ule, thank you so much again. It was so awesome to have you. And mahalo. I'm speechless.
Mahalo, Vailana. I appreciate you. Okay, mahalo kako. I'll see you at the closing.
Thank you.
Ahuiho.